Movies make me so happy, and the one I'm talking about today is on the top of the list of movies that are just my go-to happy rewatches. And how can it not be? It has a glamorous setting, a star-studded and stunning cast that includes 4 Academy Award winners, a soundtrack by one of the greatest composers of all time with songs that stay in your head long after you've watched the film. What movie am I talking about? High Society, of course. This movie was and is a cinematic dream, a sparkling Technicolor musical packed with romance, humour, and the best jazz music you ever will hear. But beneath the glittering surface, this film had its fair share of behind-the-scenes drama, shocking casting choices, and one legendary actress's final on-screen appearance before becoming a princess. There's lots to talk about. Let's get into it. Before High Society charmed audiences in 1956, it was something else entirely. A comedy called The Philadelphia Story, released in 1940, starring Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, and James Stewart. The film was a witty, sophisticated look at high society, set in, of course, Philadelphia. If you're interested in learning more about that movie, you can watch my review of The Philadelphia Story. I will link it wherever you link those things, in below and on the screen too. So The Philadelphia Story was a massive hit. It won James Stewart his Academy Award, and when MGM decided to remake it, see, Hollywood remaking classics is nothing new, they knew they had big shoes to fill. Their solution? Turn it into a musical and pack it with some of the greatest names in Hollywood. Here enters Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, and of course, Grace Kelly. I mean, this cast is pretty iconic and I think is one of the film's standout features, but interestingly, Elizabeth Taylor was the first choice for the part of Tracy Samantha Lord, originated by Katharine Hepburn on stage and screen, but she was unavailable. And I'm kind of happy, even though Elizabeth Taylor's one of my favourite actresses, I don't think she was right for this movie. So, the part went to Grace Kelly. In this film, Grace's image as the cool, cultured blonde that she'd cultivated in her Hitchcock films really seems to solidify. Grace Kelly had also just become engaged to Prince Rainier of Monaco and wore her own Cartier 10.5 carat emerald cut diamond engagement ring in the film because, wouldn't you? Grace Kelly as Tracy Lord was a no-brainer. She was Hollywood royalty who was about to become real-life royalty. She was effortlessly sophisticated and at both the peak and end of her film career. But casting the 2 leading men, that was a different story. Bing Crosby was nearly 30 years older than Grace Kelly, and he was chosen to play C.K. Dexterhaven, Tracy Lord's ex-husband, played so fabulously by Cary Grant in The Philadelphia Story. But not everyone was quite convinced he was right for this romantic lead role. I loved him though. Frank Sinatra was cast as the fast-talking journalist Mike Connor, a role played by Jimmy Stewart in The Philadelphia Story. Sinatra initially refused the part. He wasn't a big fan of playing second fiddle to Crosby, and tensions on that set ran high. But MGM knew how to sweeten the deal by giving Sinatra one of the film's best songs, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which randomly, when I was researching this, and it makes sense when you think about it, I feel really dumb, this might be a common fact, that song was the inspiration for the TV game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I mean, it makes sense, but I just never put 2 and 2 together. Anyway, this worked and Sinatra signed on. There have been some Sinatra biographers who claim that Bing Crosby kept his distance from Sinatra during the production and remained strictly professional while Sinatra desired a more friendly relationship. And it killed Sinatra to think that Crosby considered himself a higher class singer, especially since Sinatra had idolised Crosby for so very long. However, this rumour has been rejected by TCM, which stated that in spite of rumoured rivalry between Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby, the two worked together amicably during the shoot. There was also another rumour that Sinatra was fascinated with Grace Kelly, as were many of her previous co-stars, and would have loved to have had a bit of a romantic affair with her, but feared rejection and embarrassment in front of Crosby, who had already previously had an affair with Kelly. I don't really see Grace Kelly having an affair so close to her wedding to a prince. Would she risk that? I don't know. These are rumours that have been around for 60 plus years. Filming took place between January and March 1956. The location scenes were shot in Newport, Rhode Island. The location enabled the film to take advantage of the Newport Jazz Festival, which had been established in 1954. It was incorporated into the film by giving Crosby's character a background as a jazz composer and being the friend of jazz star Louis Armstrong, who plays himself in the film. And we can't really talk about High Society without having a chat about the one and only Louis Armstrong. I think Louis Armstrong stole every scene he was in. He played himself and kind of served as the film's musical narrator. He set the tone for the film with his opening number, High Society Calypso.
And you dig old Satchmo swinging in the beautiful high society. End of song, beginning of story.
His presence brought real jazz credibility to the film at a time when jazz was kind of shifting away from mainstream popularity. Armstrong's performance was a reminder of its power. And fun fact, both Sinatra and Crosby were massive jazz fans, making Armstrong's inclusion all the more fitting. And like I mentioned earlier, this was Grace Kelly's final film before she left Hollywood forever. Just months after this wrapped, Kelly married Prince Rainier III of Monaco, officially becoming Princess Grace of Monaco. Helen Rose, who had designed the costumes for the film, also designed Grace Kelly's wedding gown for her marriage to Prince Rainier, one of the most iconic wedding gowns of all time, which was also a gift from MGM. Because MGM tried everything to keep Grace Kelly in Hollywood, they even offered her staggering amounts of money for future projects. But Grace Kelly had made her decision, she was done with acting, and it kind of made High Society even more special and poignant. And speaking of special, let's talk about the music of this incredible film. If High Society had one weapon, it was Cole Porter. The legendary composer wrote all of the songs for the film, and they became some of the most memorable in movie history. Crosby and Kelly's duet, True Love, was a standout. Despite initial plans to dub her, Grace Kelly sang her own very small part in True Love. Not only was this song nominated for an Academy Award, but it became a gold certified hit. And Princess Grace became the only member of a royal family to have a gold certified hit. And there was Crosby and Sinatra's duet, my absolute favourite. I was just watching this film before I jumped on, and the star power oozing out of both of them, their voices just so smooth. Oh, the song I'm talking about, of course, as well, Did You Ever? A playful, boozy number that showcased two icons' effortless charm together. There might have been friction on the set between the two of them, but the chemistry on camera was so real. When High Society premiered in July 1956, just 2 months after Grace Kelly's massive royal wedding, it was no surprise that this film was an incredibly huge hit, and audiences adored it. Critics, however, were divided. Many felt it didn't quite live up to the Philadelphia Story's high standards. The New York Times wrote, High Society was as flimsy as a gossip columnist's word, missing the snap and crackle that its unmusical predecessor had. However, Variety observed, High Society should spell high finance business all over. It's a solid entertainment every minute of its footage. Miss Kelly impresses as the femme lead with pleasantly comedian overtones. This is perhaps her most relaxed performance. And over time, High Society has found its place as a beloved classic. It was one of that year's biggest box office hits. The soundtrack was a smash success. Even today, High Society remains a favourite for fans of Golden Age musicals, celebrated for its stunning visuals, unforgettable music, and of course, Grace Kelly's final performance. High Society, for me, I watched High Society when I was, I think, about 16. I'd watched it before I watched The Philadelphia Story. So High Society always had a really special place in my heart because I just thought it was so incredibly beautiful and fun. And the music is some of my favourite music from any old Hollywood film. I really, really love it. For a while, I loved it more than The Philadelphia Story, but as I've gotten older, now I'm 30, I can appreciate The Philadelphia Story just a tiny bit more, but I love High Society. Like I said, I was just watching it an hour ago and like, oh, this movie is so fun and the chemistry between them so fun, and I love it so much. And it was my first Grace Kelly film, and I was just in awe of this stunningly beautiful woman. I was like, oh my gosh, who are you? Why are you so beautiful? And then the backstory that she went and became a princess after she made this movie, it's just every little girl's dream. So I love High Society. And I asked a question a couple of months back on my page on Instagram, if what movie people preferred more, The Philadelphia Story or High Society, and I got told very sternly by most people that The Philadelphia Story impresses them more. But what do you think? Do you think High Society outshines The Philadelphia Story, or is it just a glossy remake? And was Frank Sinatra really second to Bing Crosby, or were they on even levels. I think they were even. I think they were both fantastic. I loved them. So thank you again for watching one of my videos. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe so I can keep making these little glimpses into old Hollywood films. I'm passionate about it and I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. And if you haven't seen it already, go watch High Society and I will see you next time.